Episode 24, Los Angeles, Hollywood Boulevard to Historical Linguistics. Scene 1, Hollywood Boulevard. Hollywood Boulevard at night. Neon lights flicker across the pavement. Ronny stands over one of the stars on the Walk of Fame, staring at it with laser focus. He was standing on his skateboard.
I still don't get it. I've been standing here for a full minute trying to understand what exactly went wrong here. I thought maybe my eyes were tired, or the lighting was weird or something. But no, it really says that. Look at this thing. Seriously, read it carefully.
Ronny? What are you doing out here staring at the pavement like it owes you money? I thought you were down in Long Beach with the professor and that whole family after the court thing. Did you get lost on the way back? Or are you just inspecting the sidewalks of Hollywood now?
Jeremy, perfect timing. Come here a second and look at this. I'm trying to figure out whether this is a historical mistake, a printing error, or some kind of municipal sabotage. Because if you read the name carefully, it says Enrico Camiso. Camiso. Now I ask you, how does that even happen?
Let me see that. Yeah, that does say Camiso. That's weird. Isn't it supposed to be Caruso, like the opera singer? My grandmother used to play those old recordings.
Exactly, Caruso. Now here's the thing. My last name is Caruso too. So if the city of Los Angeles is already messing up the spelling of Caruso on the Walk of Fame, then technically, someone has already tampered with the star, which means the system clearly allows edits.
No, Ronny. That means someone made a mistake. It doesn't mean the system allows edits. If the name is wrong, you report it to the city. You don't correct it yourself.
But think about the logic for a moment. If the star already says Camiso instead of Caruso, then someone somewhere already interfered with the original spelling. So correcting it to Ronny Caruso would actually be a restoration project. Civic maintenance, basically.
You're not related to Enrico Caruso, though.
Not to my knowledge. But look at it from my perspective. It already says Caruso, or at least it tried to. So we're halfway there. All we have to do is fix the first name.
Ronny, that's not how monuments work. Also, skateboarders don't get stars here.
I know. Jeremy, the legal authority, has spoken. Only actors, musicians, television people, radio people, the official celebrity ecosystem. Which is a shame, really. 3 X Games wins in a row should count as a hat trick of some kind.
I don't think there's a hat trick category for skateboarding on the Walk of Fame.
Then clearly the system is incomplete. Maybe I should focus more on the drumming. Musicians do get stars. That could be my backup career. Olympic skateboarder by day, legendary drummer by night.
You're already exhausting just describing it.
You know what Aristotle said, right? He said an educated mind can entertain a thought without accepting it. So I'm perfectly capable of entertaining the thought that this star is not mine, without actually accepting it.
And what does that mean in practical terms?
It means that if I happen to have a can of spray paint with me, I could theoretically correct the spelling to Ronny Caruso, and the historical record would finally make sense.
That would be criminal mischief under California law. Seriously. Vandalizing public property.
You law students always ruin the fun.
Someone has to keep you out of jail.
Fair enough. Anyway, I came back up here because the professor stayed longer down in Long Beach. UCLA invited him to give a lecture tomorrow. Historical linguistics. They even called the airline at Lengua Explorer and rebooked his flight so he could stay. So I figured I'd come back into the city and see if Hollywood had accidentally issued a Ronny Caruso star.
UCLA invited him? That sounds serious.
Yeah, it's kind of his thing. Brains, abstract thinking, patterns in language. The kind of stuff where he reads a triangular shape and suddenly knows exactly how many bombs are hidden on a cruise ship. That sort of day at the office.
I would actually like to hear that lecture.
You should come.
I can't. I've got a moot court session tomorrow morning and then a mountain of evidence law to read. If I skip that, my professor will personally erase my academic future.
That sounds dramatic.
Welcome to law school.
Well, I'll be there with him anyway. I'm basically spending the next 2 days hanging around the professor. If he doesn't escape first.
Escape?
Not intellectually. He actually likes talking. It's just the physical adventures he avoids. Earlier today, we were supposed to go jet skiing, and he declined again.
Why?
He says he doesn't have a water problem. He has a shark and jellyfish problem. Pools and bathtubs are acceptable because neither species has adapted to ceramic environments yet.
That's oddly logical.
Exactly. That's the professor. Highly intellectual, very philosophical, but extremely precise about risk management.
And you enjoy hanging around with him?
Yeah. Honestly, I find him intellectually challenging. It's rare.
Thank you. I believe that statement could qualify as defamation of character.
Relax. If it helps, I enjoy hanging out with law school Jeremy too. Which is why I'm checking whether the city of Los Angeles accidentally gave me a star already.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Ronny. Even if the spelling is wrong, that star is still not yours.
Maybe not today, but at least they got half the last name right. Tomorrow I'll tell the city to restore Caruso. That's half the job done, and I'm still playing inside your legal rules.
Scene 2. Professor Martz's lectures on historical semantics. Ronny picked me up in my hotel punctually at 9 o'clock. We drove through the morning traffic toward UCLA, arriving at 9:45 just in time for my time slot. Academics always say time is a social construct, but when you miss your slot, you learn very quickly that it is not. We walked through the corridor, and a few minutes later I stepped into the lecture hall. I looked at the audience, then I looked at the screen behind me. My name was printed there, the full name even. That always makes me slightly uneasy. When your full name is on a screen, people expect something extensive to follow. I smiled, adjusted the microphone, and greeted the audience. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear board, dear dean, dear head of linguistics, Mrs. Santini, thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you most of all for kindly rebooking my At Lengua Explorer flight LXE 4265 to Barcelona, so that I may go home only in 3 days. Academics always enjoy conferences that end in prolonged reflection. A few people laughed. And before we begin, I would like to greet another group, because I know they are watching as well. Many viewers of this channel are from Mexico, from Colombia, and from other Spanish-speaking countries. So to all of you who are joining from there, welcome. I paused for a moment. Now, since we do not want to lose time, let us begin. I looked again at the audience. Let us start easy so that everyone can follow. But I promise you, it will not stay that easy. So please give me your attention. I structured the lecture to reflect 7 segments, opening and closing included. Segment 1. Simple Curiosity. I turned to the screen. Consider 2 English words. Chef-chief. They look similar, do they not? And they are in fact historically related, yet today they live completely separate lives. I paused. One prepares your dinner, the other commands an army. A few people smiled. This is our first observation. Words that once shared meaning, or etymon, slowly drift apart. Languages are not static systems. They are living historical organisms. Segment 2. Dog and Hound. Let us look at another pair, dog-hound. Today we think of a hound as a particular type of dog, a hunting dog perhaps. But historically it was the other way around. In older English, hound meant simply dog. Over time the general term shifted. The word dog became the ordinary word, and hound specialized. This process has a name. I showed it on the screen. Semantic narrowing. A word that once meant something broad becomes more specific. I looked back at the audience, and this happens constantly. Segment 3. Swim and float. Now let us look at something even more interesting. I showed 2 verbs, swim, float. In English we make a distinction. Swimming is active movement, floating is passive buoyancy. If you fall into a lake and move your arms energetically, you are swimming. If your hat falls into the lake and simply rests on the water, I paused, it floats. I looked around the room. But languages do not all divide reality in the same way. In German, for example, the same verb is often used for both situations. So a German speaker might look at the lake and say that the hat is swimming. I leaned slightly forward. Now think about that for a moment. If floating is swimming, would we also say that a hat is horseback riding? The audience laughed. This is the kind of small absurdity that reveals something important. Languages categorize reality differently. Schemas are language specific. Segment 4, Narrowing in History. Now let us go deeper. I displayed 3 words. Meet, dear girl. Each of these once meant something much broader than it does today. Meat. In early English, meat simply meant food, not beef, not pork, food. Dear. In Old English, deer meant any animal. Over time, the meaning narrowed until it referred only to one species. Then I turned to the final word, girl. In earlier English, girl referred simply to a young person, a child, a youth. It could refer to boys or girls. So if the distinction troubles you for whatever reason, simply travel back to Middle English. There the word girl referred to any young person. Only later did the word narrow to its modern meaning, a female child. This is how language quietly reorganizes meaning over centuries. Segment 5, The Norman Conquest. I changed the slide. Now we arrive at one of the most important moments in the history of English, the Norman Conquest. After this event, English society developed 2 linguistic layers. I showed examples: cow, beef pig, pork sheep, mutton calf, veal. The peasants raised the animals. The Norman aristocracy consumed the prepared food. So the animals kept their Germanic names, but the cuisine acquired French names. Language, as it turns out, remembers social hierarchy remarkably well. Okay, ready for the next segment? Segment 6, Romance Advantage. I paused and looked at the audience. And this is where my Spanish-speaking viewers may suddenly discover an advantage. At advanced levels of English, many words come from the Romance layer. Consider 2 adjectives: unbelievable, incredible. Both express almost the same idea, but one is built from a Germanic structure, the other from a Romance root. Then I wrote another word, pernicious. At advanced levels, C1, C2, vocabulary begins to include words like this. Spanish speakers recognize it instantly. Pernicious equals pernicioso. English speakers sometimes struggle with it. So here is the interesting paradox. At the beginning of learning English, the Germanic base can be difficult, but at advanced levels, the Romance vocabulary suddenly becomes very transparent for Romance speakers. Segment 7, A Modern Shift. Finally, let us look at a more recent example. I displayed one more word, gay. I turned back to the audience. Today, this word has a very specific meaning, but historically it meant something else entirely. Gay once meant happy, joyful, carefree. So when older songs speak of gay birds, they simply mean happy birds. I smiled. My students often look very confused when they first hear this, but this confusion is precisely the point. Words change meaning, and if we read older texts using modern meanings, we misunderstand them. I looked again at the audience. So, what have we learned? Languages are not static dictionaries. They are historical systems. Words narrow, words broaden, words shift with society. Linguists usually do not say words, we say lexemes. Same thing, different tag. And sometimes, if we listen carefully, they reveal the history of the people who used them. and that is the field we call historical semantics. I looked once more at the screen. And that, I said, is why linguistics is never boring. The audience applauded, and so did Ronny. He said,
Professor, today we go jet skiing. No choice today. We widened the scope to hydrolinguistics. After all, it was you who brought up swimming.